I think the first point to make is that we must acknowledge and appreciate that we have achieved remarkable success as a country. And I say this really seriously and meaningfully. Just over 20 years ago, we were a country almost on the brink of civil war. It was remarkable leadership that enabled us to navigate the extreme social tensions that existed at that time and embark on a path of reconciliation and justice. The theme of remarkable leadership is one I will return to later, because like in 1992-93, I think we are again at something of a crossroads, and we again need remarkable leadership to galvanize us in one direction. And there were major achievements made in this period, such as developing the Constitution, institutional frameworks that kept us in check, and made sure that rule of law and the system of democratic accountability holds firm in the country. So we owe a lot to our leaders who put this institutional architecture in place. We also put a massive fiscal redistribution program in place, and arguably, for the size of our economy and GDP, have one of the most comprehensive welfare systems globally. And here we have seen amazing results in terms of eradicating extreme poverty and giving citizens access to basic services. Where we have also been successful over the past 20 years is around macroeconomic stability. Until the onset of the recession in 2008-09, we were generating more revenue than we were spending. And that was a remarkable achievement. But our growth model itself, if you can call it that, has limitations. We grew very well as an economy between 2003 and 2008 on the back of high commodity demand and prices and strong financial inflows. But as soon as commodity demand reduced, China slowed down, and emerging markets were no longer the flavor of the day for financial investors, then our economy stumbled. It seems as if we haven't ignited our growth engines at the time, and I would argue we have not today. We all know that we could be doing much better. It is about understanding where we could be more competitive, identifying and addressing growth constraints, and aggressively supporting Team South Africa on the economic front. This is something we have not done well. Put simply, we haven't sufficiently prioritized economic growth. Possibly this is linked to the old suspicions about business or about each other. This trust deficit is something we have to address. Possibly it is just that we have had other priorities in health, education, etc. But increasingly, we are realizing that if we do not grow the economy, restructure our economy to address binding constraints, we will continue to be stuck in a low-growth trap. This is not something new. We have been growing at around 2% aggregate since 1970. We're not creating new wealth and new assets. So when we talk about new consensus, growth must be at the center of the new consensus that we need to build as a country. But we're not a normal society, and many countries, of course, are grappling with the same issues. So we can't talk just about growth. Yet growth will give us more revenue so that we can expand our fiscal redistribution program. But any growth we achieve will be unsustainable unless we address the 90-10 phenomenon, in which 10% of the population owns 90% of wealth. So our growth must be inequality reducing. This is at the heart of the notion of inclusive growth. I don't think it's helpful to blame each other. Yes, government should have done better in terms of education and training results. And maybe we should have done better in the cost of logistics and energy. Maybe we should have managed better our SOCs, which are probably, I don't need to tell you. And maybe business could have done more to integrate black startups into key value chains and markets, and maybe banks could have done more to allocate capital to productive investment, etc. Rather than blame each other, we should accept that things need to change. Change radically, as of course it has become a common term now within the party I belong to. The sooner we agree on what must change, and probably go a little bit beyond slogan, and how this change can be facilitated, the better. This is why we are calling for a new consensus. So we can bring certainty to policy, so that we can bring the necessary stability required for business to make long-term investment decisions. We are extremely concerned that we are not seeing the levels of investment, not in liquid financial markets, but in fixed capital, that we require to ignite growth.